boys and girls of all ages and political deep dive fans, if there are any of you out there. Hey, I'm Dave, and it's Dan, and it's the political
Hey,
deep dive for the week. It
I'm,
is a free for all Sunday. How you doing, Dan?
I'm doing good. I wanted to mention the fact that I got a couple fan messages off of last week's show.
Nice,
Yeah, very
excellent.
exciting. I don't know what the numbers are, but we certainly appreciate them. And
Yeah,
for those of you who are tuned in now, please tune in. Please hit that subscribe, thumbs up button, all that stuff in the bottom left, wherever you're watching us from. You can help us out. So please subscribe, like all those good things, and tell your friends about the show
yeah.
because this is a good show because it's about Guam.
It's about Guam. I mean,
Yeah.
how could you hate Guam? And we are getting to Guam this week. We're going to start out with that. But why are Dan and I dressed up as we are? So this week is week 0 of the college football season. And so college sports is back. I know my university has had a few volleyball games and soccer games so far this season. So college sports is back, and I'm very excited for that. This is the season before the storm. Um, as far as colleges moving all over the place, conferences no longer making sense. Um, but this is the last year that we're going to have the Pac-12 conference. This is the last year we've got Colorado in that Pac-12 conference. I mean, like most of that conference is gone now. USC and UCLA are leaving next year for the Big Ten, as are Washington and Oregon. Then Arizona State, Arizona, and Colorado and Utah are going to the Big 12. And I think that leaves just Stanford, Oregon State, and Cal remaining in the Big 12 or the Pac-12. And there are rumors that those guys are going off to another conference at the end of the year as well. So interesting times in college football. But Dan is wearing his University of Texas Longhorns, Hook'em Longhorns lacrosse jersey, actually, right?
Yeah, I played midfield for Texas for 3 years. And my freshman year, we won the Southwest Conference Championship
The old
back in the
Southwest
days.
Conference,
The
yeah.
good old Southwest Conference. Now, those of you who are younger, you think of lacrosse as, yeah, that's a sport that they play in high school. But when I was in high school, it was not a sport that was widely played around the country.
No.
I, however, went to a boarding school in Colorado where I learned to play. And then when I came back to play at Texas, I was one of the very few people who had played in high school.
Wow.
However, anybody who knows anything about college sports knows that Texas has an enormous football program. And there are always guys who show up and try to walk on and play football and don't make it. And so we would try to get them coming out of their trial. And it was one of those things where I learned that, it's one thing to be good at a sport, but it's another thing to be a great athlete.
Yeah.
And there were plenty of guys who didn't make the Texas football team who were unbelievable athletes and came out and really helped us have a phenomenal lacrosse team. But it was interesting that the year that we won it, it was sort of the perfect combination of a few wide receiver types who, 6'2", 6'3", could run, 4'6", 4'5", 40, which, if you watch the combine, you're like, well, that's not good, but it's good for mortals. And
It was, good for back then, too. I mean,
yeah,
you weren't elite track speed, but still.
right, exactly. And it
Yeah.
was certainly good enough to be very competitive at lacrosse at Texas. And so, yeah, and my Longhorns have had a couple games already. They're ranked number 1 in women's volleyball right now, just swept Loyola Marymount, and they're currently up 6-0 over Iona in soccer. That game's
Well,
live right now.
there you go. Yeah, I should have gone to many more volleyball games at Kennesaw State University. They're generally very competitive. They're in right now. They're in the Atlantic Sun Conference. They're moving conferences. My Kennesaw State Owls have are in their last year of being an FCS. So there's a division below the football bowl subdivision, which Texas is in. Kennesaw State is now moving up from that division into the football bowl subdivision into Conference USA, which is an abysmal conference. I watched some of the games this weekend. It was pretty rough, but they're getting their shot at the big time next year. And looking forward to it because this year's schedule has been kind of rough because they got kicked out of their football conference because they are going up and had to kind of schedule schools as they could. So they've got a lot of like lower division schools on their schedule this year. They should do very well, but it's not going to be fun to watch. But yeah, that's my team.
Isn't baseball the big sport at Kennesaw State?
Oh,
or am I confusing it with somewhere else?
No, our big sport has been football since it got there.
Gotcha.
State's been really, really good at football at the
Division 3?
FCS. So just below they're in Division 1. They're just FCS, not
Okay.
subdivision. So which is I liked FCS because they have an actual playoff of 24 teams, which makes sense to me. That kind of playoff system makes sense to me. But they haven't been able to win a national championship, but they've been very competitive and getting into quarterfinals a couple times and winning their times. They did win a national championship in Division II in basketball, and they do have a good baseball program there. A long time.
Yeah, for some reason, I thought that Texas played Kennesaw State once in the World Series or the World whatever.
I think in one of the earlier playoff rounds, I think they have played.
Yeah.
They played LSU a couple of years ago, and they played in Alabama a couple of years ago, and actually won that that regional to go to the super regional. The college baseball playoffs are incredibly convoluted to try and figure out, but yeah, they do have a good baseball program too. So, all right, let's get to Guam. We have been talking about Guam the last couple of weeks, just have not had a chance to get there. And let me get the chats up. I apologize. Jasper, good to see you. Janice, thank you so much, Janice. You hopped on for the Burn and Vermin. So if you didn't know, the last couple of days I've been producing Vermin Supreme's 2-day campaign fundraiser and music extravaganza. It was a lot of fun. Craig, good to see you. Yeah, thanks everyone for joining us tonight. Appreciate the comments. Got the comments up now. So if you want to comment, just drop a comment and you'll see it on the air and we'll discuss some of them as let me get that back up. I screwed that up. Sorry about that, y'all. Trying to get this caption off here. There we go. All right. So, all right, Guam. Let's talk about Guam. Let me show you a little video we made for Guam.
All right.
So there's
full screen.
Yeah, I put it right there. All right, so that's the island of Guam. It's in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Beautiful. That's actually the coat of arms there. This video is called Guam, a cinematic journey. A lot of drone footage of the island of Guam. Go check it out. Bryce Collier 2677 is the one who did the video. As you can see, Guam is a beautiful, beautiful island. It's been an American territory since the Spanish-American War, save for 2.5 years during World War II, where it was actually in Japanese hands for a while. But we'll go through some vital stuff here in a minute about Guam. And that is the flag of Guam. There we go. All right, and that was the state anthem or territory anthem of Guam. So let me rearrange this. There we go. All right, so Guam, a U.S. territory since December 23rd, 1898, as a treaty of the ending of the Spanish-American War.
Which is so awesome. So many people don't know that the United States acquired all of this territory courtesy of the Spanish-American War.
Oh, yeah. We got the Philippines.
Yeah, the Philippines.
We got Puerto Rico. We got Cuba. And then Guam and
a couple other islands around the way.
Yeah, some islands around
the real end of the Spanish Empire.
Yeah.
So Guam is a nice piece of that.
Although If you want to ever study how propaganda can get us into war, study the Spanish-American War, the sinking of, what is it, the Maine?
The Maine.
Yeah,
Remember the Maine.
yeah.
My high school, I was mentioning my high school earlier, uh, junior year, you had to write a term paper. So you had the entire term to write this paper. It
Hmm.
had to be at least 50 pages long. And you picked a topic out of history, and then they taught you how to research it, how to write a formal paper, etc. My topic was the effects of yellow journalism on the Spanish American War.
Wow.
This sort of competition between Joseph Pulitzer and William Randolph Hearst, two famous Americans, the New York World and the New York Sun,
Yeah.
and they were just making up crazy stories to sell papers. And so, if you think journalism is bad now, it's always been
It's
bad.
always been bad. Yeah.
Yeah, it's always been sensationalist.
Yeah.
But we got
Um,
Guam, so it was worth it.
yeah, we got Guam out of the deal. The capital city of Guam is Hagotna. Hagotnya. I think the Americanized pronunciation is Aganya, but it's Hagotnya. It has less than 1,000 people in the town, which makes it the smallest capital by population in the United States. Dodedo is the most populous city of around 44,000. It has 160,000 people on the island, and the island that size, it actually makes it the sixth most populous, population dense state or territory in the Union. So it is fairly population dense, just not in the capital. Let's see, it's the most remote territory of the U.S., over 8,000 miles away from Washington, D.C. It's also known as where America starts its day, although that's technically not true. American Samoa is actually a little earlier on the side of the international date line, so that technically is where America starts its day. Was inhabited by the Chamorro people kind of around the 2000 to 1500 BCE era, and sailing small ships, spanning across from Asia to the eastern Asia to the islands. Um, so this group is somewhat distinct from the ones that settled the southern part, which like the Aboriginal people that settled into Australia and places like that. So Chamorros are a little bit different than the Aboriginal Australians, but they've been there for quite a while, almost 4,000, right around 4,000 years. So let's see, it was annexed by Spain in the 1500s, of course, ceded to the U.S. in the Spanish-American War. Uh, the island was invaded by Imperial Japan 3 days after Pearl Harbor. And held by Japan for 2.5 years. Liberation from Japan was attained in August of 1944. As a territory of the U.S., they do not have a representative or vote in Congress, but they do have a delegate there. The delegate is James Moylan. He's a Republican. Their party system is much like the Republicans and Democrats. I know that there's been moves to have a Libertarian Party of Guam there, but they don't have a large enough party at this point. So there's Republicans and Democrats in Guam. The Republican is the delegate. The governor of the island is a Democrat, Lou Leon Guerrero, who has been in office since 2019 and reelected in 2022. She is term limited for 2026, so there'll be a new governor. The governor and lieutenant governor run as a ticket, like many American states. The lieutenant governor is Democrat Josh Tenorio. He's the first openly gay person to be elected lieutenant governor in the United States.
Wow.
As a state or territory. The legislature is unicameral, like
Nebraska.
Nebraska is the other unicameral legislature. They only have a Senate, like Nebraska, and in that Senate there are 15 members. That is broken down by Democrats currently holding 9 seats, while the Republicans hold 6. And the island is heavily dependent on the United States military and government expenditures in the island to keep the military up there. But they also are very dependent on tourism, mainly from Asia, mainly from Japan, because it's about a 3.5 hour flight from Japan to Guam, and they get cheaper shopping there. I guess the product.
Cheaper shopping, but still essentially an American territory.
Yeah.
So strong law and order, good hospitals, relatively speaking, stuff like that, and not as expensive as Hawaii.
And it has the highest per capita income of pretty much any island in the Pacific, whether we're talking Micronesia, or,
Yeah.
Marshall Islands,
Marianas.
Marianas, the Solomons, Kiribati, any of those islands. It has, because of that U.S. military presence, has the highest per capita income there in the island. So, and they have like I was watching this video, and they have like a big mall there. It has all the big U.S. shops there, so that's why it draws a lot of territory. Hey James, how you doing? Yes, hooty hoo. That is the war cry of the Kennesaw State Owls.
Yeah, and Jake, it is only me and Dave tonight. AJ has the virus that shall not be named,
Yeah.
that people say is not making a comeback.
It's really weird how people are freaking out about mask mandates. Like, I really haven't heard too many people.
I mean,
Like,
what's stupid about it is that's not going to happen,
no.
right? I mean, there's no way that the country would go back to that. And now that we know, relatively how stupid it was. However, the thing is that if you were a highly at risk person, you might consider wearing a mask, an N95 mask, when you're around people that you don't see on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And that makes sense to me, right? If I thought my life depended on it, I might wear a mask. If I were, 90 years old or something like that, that just makes a lot of sense. So I think that hopefully,
Start the
people are
chat.
being smart about what they're doing. But now the interesting thing about it, of course, is we're talking about COVID. Let's talk about living on an island nation,
Yeah.
because a lot of the islands, did pretty well. But
Although I will say Guam was actually the first place that U.S. military personnel caught COVID on a ship, and it had to quarantine in Guam for a long time.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, it's the
yeah,
islands did relatively well, but they also suffered because they didn't get any tourism for a while.
right, exactly. So right now, right, exactly. And if your money depends on that, and if there's no tourism, there's probably not a lot of shipping. There aren't a lot of good things coming in. But Guam is one of those places. When I went to Hawaii on my honeymoon right after 9/11, and James, get one of those free testing kits.
Yeah.
Never hurts. Um, but so we went to Hawaii, and we talked to the natives about it, and the locals, because Hawaii was a ghost town when I was there, and all the tour companies had plenty of openings. They're like, yeah, everybody's welcome, etc. So we got to do a whole bunch of great tours. We talked to them. We're like, what do you think about this whole thing with 9/11 and nobody's flying, stuff like that? He's like, look, it sucks for the local businesses, but we all know that there's plenty of food on the island, and you can just go out and fish in the ocean if you need to, and walk into the jungle, and there's a million plants that we can eat, tubers and all these other things and stuff like that. It's like, poverty in Hawaii isn't the same as poverty in New York City. And I think that's the same
Yeah.
thing for Guam, where you have, an ocean full of supplies.
You do, but and I always get confused by the Jones Act, but they are also impacted by the Jones Act if there's something like a massive,
Oh my God, I didn't even
typhoon that
think about
rolls
that.
through.
Yeah. Although, I mean, if you were smart, you just wouldn't have a boat that goes anywhere from Guam to anywhere else in the U.S.
Yeah.
Uh, because they're not near anything else. One of the interesting things is that Guam is like Ireland in that there's no, or England, there's no rabies there, and so they do have a quarantine about that. And one other interesting thing about it is that there is an American university at Guam,
Mm.
and it is accredited American university. And so if you really want to go and hang out on the beach, but get a 4-year degree, that's not the worst place to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I knew some people that did Hawaii, University of Hawaii, the Big Island, and the Maui one. But yeah, Guam would be a good place. I could, if I need to go back and get a degree, I think that's where I need to go. But all right. So, any news happened this week?
Well,
This
let's see.
was a pretty intense week for the news.
It was so we one of the interesting things, of course, is the whole Trump thing, right?
Yeah.
Showing up in Georgia, getting a mugshot. Um, my favorite meme of the whole thing was the I call this look election steal.
Oh, I did that.
You did that. It was excellent.
That was
You should
that was
you should
mine.
show it.
Let me try.
I'll fill while you find it. Now there is an interesting thing where a lot of people are saying don't share the mug shot because it only helps the Republicans. But I think that's really a false flag. I think it's the Republicans who are saying that because
Yes.
the case is pretty damning. I don't see. First of all, I want to talk about the fact a lot of people are saying it's politically motivated because the county attorney is a Democrat. But, the attorney is just the person who prosecutes the crime. She can't make something up and say, okay, we're going to prosecute you for this. The person who actually is responsible for the case is the Republican Secretary of State, who was called by Donald Trump, load up.
All right. Hold on a sec.
Just hit the expand photo thing.
There we go.
No, but also the expand the photo inside of Facebook.
Oh yeah. There we go. All right. That's about as good as it gets.
Is it? Oh, that sucks. All right, but it's
That
still
does.
pretty good. I can see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, that's just classic.
So
And if
my
anybody
sister, my
if
sister
anybody-
said
go ahead.
that Trump looks like he's a toddler going through a tantrum, and he just filled his diaper, and it probably is what is happening right there.
Yeah, it's a weird look, but I I have a mugshot. I've been arrested, spent a night in jail.
Did you
And,
mean mug? Did you mean mug like this?
I did not do that. I will say it wasn't the same situation. Like for me, it was I was scared. Uh, didn't
Of
have
course.
I mean I didn't know anything about jail. I didn't know that I could call a bail bondsman. Somebody asked why did Trump get a bail bondsman? It's an interesting question.
I think because you're doing bail, you have to have somebody that secures the bond.
Yeah. Um, but I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't be allowed to put up your own money.
Well, yeah, but I don't know. I think they want somebody responsible in case he starts running.
But I mean, if he starts running, he loses his own money. I don't know.
I don't think it's his money, really. I think it's all these donors have been giving him money,
Yeah.
so I mean, it's not really his money to lose.
Dr. Moulton is also a lawyer, and so maybe he can tell us. Although I don't know if he's a criminal lawyer or not. But I don't know. It's a great question, Janice. I don't know why he needed a bail bondsman.
Yeah. But yeah, thanks to Chuck and Drew and all those folks joining us tonight. I really appreciate it. Throw some comments. We'll happy to. What were you in for, Dan? Yeah, your Dan jokes. That's what.
Yeah, no. So I was arrested for as we're talking University of Texas. I went to the University of Texas for my undergrad, and every summer I went to where my family was in Massachusetts, and I would close out my bank account at the end of the semester, and then I'd open up a new bank account again when I came back because I didn't have an ass load of money. I wasn't going to leave $5 sitting in my bank account. And one year I did that. Exactly. One year I did that, and I didn't realize there was an outstanding check because I never actually balanced my checkbook. And again, for the kids who don't understand, it used to be that before ATMs and before debit cards, you would have to get cash out of the bank during the week so that you would have money to do things on the weekend. And if you ran out of cash, you couldn't do anything else. And so you wrote checks for a lot of things. Like I would write checks for gas and all sorts of stuff. And that, in fact, that's what happened was I wrote a check for gas at 7-Eleven, and somehow it got misplaced or something and didn't get cash for 3 months. I had closed the bank account, so it was this theft by check. I didn't even know about it, but there was a warrant out. I got picked up 2 years afterwards.
Wow.
And yeah, it was crazy. And I had to spend a night in jail. I was just starting to date a woman, and I ended up calling her. And she came and we got a bail bondsman, bailed me out as a $500 bail, but we put down $50, and then the bondsman bailed me out, and that was it. And then I was allowed to go to plead no contest and go to or I don't remember exactly what it was, but I guess the charges were dropped if I agreed to go to a bad check writing class, which I did. And so, but
Did
I've
you
never,
learn how to write bad checks?
I've never, what's interesting about it is I've never had it expunged. And I've often thought it would be interesting if I were to ever run for office, higher office. Let's hypothetically say I might run for president as a libertarian someday in the future. Will they dig that up? Will they find my mugshot of my criminal record? And then, if I say, you know what, I went to jail, I tell that whole story. Is it a situation in which I actually might be more relatable to the
Yeah.
average person?
I
Who
mean,
knows?
for older voters, I think it would be for back in the day of writing checks. For younger voters, they may not understand that at all. Like that whole concept seems so convoluted, but that's where we were back in the day. Like we had to
Yeah.
write checks for everything or get cash out of an ATM.
I remember when I opened up my first bank account, and they gave me an ATM card, and I showed it to my parents, and they're like, "Well, that seems like a terrible idea."
And it is sometimes like if you give if a scammer gets your debit
Well,
card.
it's interesting. And in the beginning, it wasn't even a debit card; it was just an ATM card.
Oh, okay.
Debit cards didn't come
That's
out
right.
until a
Yeah.
lot later.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in the beginning, it was just your ATM card that got cash out of the machine,
Yep.
and
Even I
it's
forget about this crap.
it's interesting. It's interesting because it leads to one of the most famous political quotes of all time, and it's probably a little too spicy for us to talk about. But Jesse Jackson famously said that when he was at the ATM at night, he didn't get nervous if white people walked up behind him, but he got nervous if black people walked up behind him. And
Whoa.
that's a pretty crazy
Totally missed
statement
that
for
one.
Jesse Jackson to
Yeah,
say.
Jesse Jackson. Jeez. Dang.
Yep.
All right. Yeah. So Donald Trump's meme mugging. The entire the litany of the co-conspirators mugshots ranged from the smiling Jenna Ellis. She looked cute. Might get a hard time later. I don't know. And then you had um, some other people that looked very incredibly whitewashed. You had Mark Meadows looking angry as well, and then people had uh, Rudy Giuliani looking like sharing Rudy Giuliani's mugshot with Mr. Burns on top. It's superimposed on him, which was very fitting. If you saw Giuliani's mugshot, that was pretty hilarious.
Yeah.
The Batman villains treatment was also really good. That was good stuff. It was very entertaining, and for the first time since his account got shut down on Twitter, Donald Trump retweeted or X-zeted or whatever the hell they're calling it now on Twitter or X or whatever they're calling it now, saying "Never surrender" on the day he surrendered for the fourth time.
Right.
That was rather ironic. Like, never surrender, huh? All right. But yeah, I saw the thing about them saying not to share the mugshot. I knew that was part of the reason why they didn't do mugshots in the federal cases, because they thought this would be they're going to put it on campaign T-shirts. Although, and I think you can sell anything with Trump's face on it to the true MAGA loyalists. Like they're totally down with that, but that's just not a good look.
It's not. I mean, it's an interesting thing to see uh, the pride that they take in this.
Yeah,
Now, there's a few things about it. First of all, I want to know, and again, I would hope I haven't seen a good answer for this.
put him in Joker makeup. I'll wear it. Nice.
uh, why why is he being charged in county court rather than in state court? I don't know why that's true.
Because she's a Fulton County DA.
But why? Why does she have standing to bring that case?
Because the crime occurred in because Fulton County is the capital county of Georgia. Yeah. So,
but what county laws does she think that they broke? Counties don't have anything to do with electors or anything like that. So it just seems to me that
it's an interesting case. I honestly, if he does get convicted in this one, I will. There's enough out there that I won't be surprised, but I'll be surprised if he gets convicted in this one.
Oh, really? No, I think this is the one that's most likely. Well, no, the Mike Pence one is the most likely. Yeah. But I think there's a pretty good chance of conviction here.
Well, I think the papers one got a greater chance now that the IT guy flipped.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I think he's going to end up with multiple convictions. I think that there's much more danger with this one based on the number of co-conspirators. Co-conspirators are asking for a much earlier trial, like starting as soon as November.
Yeah.
Like that. I mean,
well, and the other thing about it is that Fulton County Court is televised.
Yeah.
So it's going to be like Amber Heard, Johnny Depp on steroids.
Oh my God. It's gonna be like OJ. It really will be like OJ. That trial being televised and the grip on America it'll have when it starts. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's gonna be pretty insane. So I'm not excited about any of that. The one other thing though is that because it's a RICO case, which is racketeering involved conspiracy.
You got to say what the rolled R, like RICO.
Suave. You and I are the only ones who remember that video.
Gen Xers are like, yeah.
So, so RICO cases carry in Georgia. Chuck got us.
Chuck got us.
Chuck is the MTV guy on our channel.
I think they could probably retire the deficit if the debt if they made it pay-per-view.
Right, but it should be on pay-per-view. Jake, it's a fucking great idea.
Hell yeah.
But so RICO cases carry mandatory jail time on conviction. So there's no way to get out of going to jail if they get convicted.
And if it's in state court, Trump couldn't win the election and pardon himself.
Right. Now, the one interesting thing about it is that a lot of people have been talking about the fact, let me just find this real quick. There's a little clause in the 14th Amendment. Let's see if I can find it. Section 3. No person shall be senator or representative in Congress or elector of president or vice president or hold any office, civil or military, under the United States or any state, blah.
Words.
Yeah. Shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof. So there is a clause that says if you are convicted in insurrection or rebellion, then you can't hold office anymore.
Yeah.
However, Trump has not been charged with insurrection.
No, I don't think any of those charges are insurrection related.
They're not. A lot of people are talking about it like they are. So if you hear somebody saying that, oh, he's not going to be able to run for office because of this thing, none of the things that he's being charged for prevents him from running for office. The only
Sadly.
thing that would be insurrection. And now a lot of the January 6th people were convicted of insurrection, but not Donald Trump. He
Yeah.
hasn't even been charged with it. So
Although, I mean, could you make the case of the aid and comfort?
it's a tough case. Well,
I mean,
if that's
it
what
would be
you
a tough case. Yeah.
yeah, because you could say, is he saying Aiden Comfort by saying these are our real heroes and blah 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 blah?
Yeah, his tweets and everything. I mean, he
Yes,
could.
but saying nice things about people, I don't think he went so far as to raise money for them. Uh,
No,
and
he's going to raise money for Rudy.
well, but Rudy again is not charged with
No,
insurrection.
no.
Um, it's a wacky thing, but I do think the Georgia case. Excuse me. I think the Georgia case is very strong because of the testimony of Raffensperger. Uh,
Yes.
to answer your question, James, yes. Technically speaking, president could pardon themselves because no crime. However, the president can only pardon themselves of a federal crime,
Yeah.
and here it's a state crime, so he couldn't pardon himself. Technically, the governor could, and it might. A lot of people are saying that maybe there's a thing where the governor might come in and issue preemptive pardons, but I don't think so because really Trump went after the Georgia Republican Party
Oh
when
yeah.
he complained that they didn't do enough to win the election for him.
Yeah, he really crapped on the Georgia Republican Party. I know I said this last time we talked about this that I knew one of the co-conspirators, David Schaefer, who used to be the chair of the Republican Party of Georgia. So maybe in prison with him as well. But yeah, I think a lot of Georgia Republicans. It probably will end up being Trump's weakest state because of how he made the Georgia Republican Party look.
Right.
I mean, I think that there are still, tons of people in Georgia that are, just rabid Trump fans who aren't involved in the day-to-day operations of the Georgia GOP. But he's not going to get any help or probably much in the way of endorsements during the primary from anybody in the Georgia GOP. But yeah, so that was part of the big news this week. The other big news was the another Russian oligarch, and this is probably the most famous of the Russian oligarchs, although he wasn't like the most rich of the Russian oligarchs. Yevgeny Prigozhin, who led a kind of coup against Vladimir Putin in June, and
The head of the Wagner Group.
head of the Wagner Group, former chef, former hot dog chef, um, who ended up being, Vladimir Putin's trusted chef. And when you're a despot and you're into poisoning people, a chef is actually a very trusted position. You want to have a guy on your side doing that stuff. So that's how got his claim to fame, and he opened a bunch of restaurants in Russia. Then took a paramilitary group and started doing some of the dirty work for the Russian president, not only in Russia but in the near states of start out in like Chechnya within Russia, and has been working in Ukraine, has been doing the dirty work in Africa. The recent coups that we have witnessed in the Sahel region are all related to the Wagner Group, and given aid and comfort. It'll be interesting to see what the impact of his death will have on those folks. But yeah, he was. We're not sure if it was bombed. Some people have said that the plane was bombed. Some people say it was shot out of the sky. Either way, it came down not of its own volition, and
Yes.
he crashed.
Normally, if a plane were to land of its own volition, it would come down in a different fashion.
Yes, with all of its parts, there was a missing wing. As it was coming down, planes. Plane crashes generally happen in two points: the takeoff or the landing. They rarely come down out of the sky of their own volition. Usually that's the result of a bombing or being hit by a missile. Either one of those happened, but you know, Trump let Prigozhin walk around the world for a while after the failed aborted coup attempt and even Prigozhin said it really wasn't a coup attempt. He was going there to correct the mistakes of the military leadership of the Russians. He didn't want to overthrow Putin, but you got on Putin's bad side, and that's never a good thing.
Well, I mean, that's his bad side. I mean, at one point in time, it looked like it was a real coup. And so
Oh
then
yeah,
the interesting question is, what stopped it, right? Because we think that Prigozhin could have driven all the way to Moscow, and it seemed like he had a lot of popular support from the people.
and he wasn't
So
getting really hard opposition on the
yeah,
way there. Yeah,
not at all. So was he worried that they would be fighting in Moscow? I don't think so, because these are troops who broke themselves on the wall of the Ukraine,
yeah.
of the Ukrainian soldiers. So I don't think they were worried about the opposition. Was he worried about
I think it
maybe
was family.
Putin? Yeah, I think that they threatened friends and family
Yeah,
of all of the people involved, and said, "Look, we have secret agents everywhere, and we'll kill your family. We'll kill your kids, your grandchildren. That's just part of it. Maybe, but also, maybe they're like, look, we're going to use tactical nuclear weapons against you. You don't have those, and
yeah.
there's no way that you can win against them, um, which is possible as well.
That's always yeah.
So then the question becomes, what's the deal that gets cut? Because there's no way that Trump says, "Oh yeah, so no penalties. We're just going to make up because you backed off your coup." It's part of the deal that Prigozhin had to agree to disappear or die. And if so, this is how I would do it. I would say, okay, we're going to fake your death.
He'll figure out the button trick. Yeah,
Yeah,
could have been.
exactly.
Could have been.
Yeah, we'll figure out your death. We'll fake your death with a plane thing, and then you're never seen from again. And you get to spend a tenth of your fortune, because Prigozhin, as you point out, was an oligarch. He had a tremendous amount of money.
Yeah,
And they say, but don't fuck it up, or we'll send everybody else to come assassinate you. And they probably would afterwards. Or maybe they made that deal and they still assassinated him. Who knows?
oh, that's totally a Putin move, is to make a deal,
Yeah.
get people feel comfortable, and you could tell Prigozhin was feeling much more comfortable. He disappeared for a while, and supposedly in Belarus, but he started popping up in West Africa. And what the hell were you doing north of Moscow? Like, I mean, why go to the belly of the beast unless you're going to go do something? And I'm not surprised that he met this end. Um, uh, the word on the street is that his wife now controls the Wagner Group. Um, it's an
I hadn't heard that.
LLC, wherever the Russian law works, but yeah, it passes down to um, next of kin, and his wife would be the next of kin to control the Wagner Group. Don't know if she's as ideological as he was, and I don't know if she was in as deep as far as coup or whatever. But yeah, she apparently controls the Wagner Group. But the move now is, it's been apparently very hot and heavy, that the Russian military is trying to subsume the Wagner fighters that were sent to Belarus after the coup into the Russian military. Um, it's still just a bad idea, because the Russian military, the one thing we've learned throughout this whole exercise in Ukraine is the Russian military has no idea what the hell they're doing.
No, I mean, there's an interesting, I think, parallel to what happened during World War II, where the Russian military was also absolutely shit, right? Lose every battle, retreat all the way back, up until the point that their army's so big that what's left after you cut it down to a quarter of its size is big and reasonably competent.
Yeah.
And there's a truth that World War II scholars will tell you that without Russia, England and the United States could not have beaten the Wehrmacht. The Wehrmacht was the greatest land army ever assembled. Uh,
I mean, it was the three pronged approach. I mean, you had the Allies coming from multiple directions to fight the Germans, and if you didn't have the Eastern Front,
yeah,
you would have faced a
yeah.
lot more
I,
opposition.
I mean, it's definitely true that having the three fronts is what made it happen. The Russians, but yeah, I mean, the might of the Wehrmacht was broken in Russia.
Yeah.
For 2 years before the West gets even close to landing again. And in that situation, there's at least for me, I have a little bit of concern that the longer this war drags on, the more competent the Russians get. And I don't want to see them acquire that competency. But the fact of the matter is that
At the
how
rate they're
you,
losing soldiers, though, that's the thing. The rate you're losing soldiers, the rate that I mean, they're just
yeah,
their offensive was just I mean offensive.
it was
Like
offensive. Yeah,
it
exactly.
was just sending a bunch of people at to get mowed down, just
Well, yeah,
stacking bodies,
and you can make an argument that you
and
know,
that's what drove Prigozhin to question the Russian military was that they were just doing it. They thought they could overwhelm the Ukrainians, and
right,
they weren't learning the lesson that they were seeing day upon day.
right, and the Russians, Prigozhin complained that when he sent his troops in, the Russians weren't giving him the weapons that he needed to really
yep,
fight the war. Now the Russians said, "Well, we're worried that you might start a coup, and that's why we're not giving you everything that you want."
yeah,
So, I mean, it's a weird thing. And
it
then the other
is.
thing about it is that it's worth saying that all the military lessons of old are of questionable value when talking about the modern battlefield. Even I just rewatched We Were Soldiers, which I'd recommend to anybody. Mel Gibson film talks about the first American combat in Vietnam, and it's superb. If you're a person who likes accurate understanding of tactics, the battlefield situation, that movie is fantastic. But even then, they talk about the fact that this war has changed because that's the first use of what they call the mobile cav,
Yeah.
troops flown in by helicopter. And now, you know, drones are dominating the battlefield. Okay, helicopters have a tough time surviving out there,
Yeah.
and it's a
I mean, the use of drone warfare in this battle has been interesting. The drones that have been attacking ships, attacking bridges, attacking troops and helicopters, and all kinds of stuff. Just absolutely fascinating the way that we're seeing warfare change with
right.
the addition of drone warfare. I mean, like the U.S. used drones, and they did strikes and all kinds of stuff with just these massive drones. But you're seeing like these tiny ass little drones doing doing work.
Well, and there is the other thing that first of all, there's the drones in terms of all the weaponized drones, but there's drones in terms of battlefield information too,
Yep.
where they have these American drones that the infantry guys just throw up into the air, and then they just give them air surveillance of
Yeah.
what the situation is that's going on.
It helps
Because
you from getting ambushed. I mean, we're not seeing as many like forced combat
yeah,
situations
well,
like they had back in Vietnam. But you could throw it up into a city area to get an idea of where the insurgents are and stay
yeah,
safe.
yeah, and well, and you see a lot of fascinating. I mean, there's a tremendous amount. If you want to, there's a tremendous amount of drone soldier video
Mm-hmm.
from Ukraine
Oh
on
yeah,
YouTube, and I mean, some of it's pretty horrific, but I mean, it's all involves people dying.
yeah,
But it is right, and so it's interesting to see where this is. Prigozhin, his death, is he really dead? I don't
Well,
know.
the Russians said that and yeah, they could have faked him to push him off somewhere, but they did confirm that his DNA matched up with one of the bodies on there, and they said that they matched everybody that was on the passenger list.
Yeah,
Take that for what it's worth. I tend to believe it. I don't know that they would have gone half-ass on this one.
yeah,
This fits Putin's MO. He goes after people who defy
sure,
him, and
right. I mean,
you
the
know,
interesting question is,
not even defy him, just like question, like, all right,
right.
this is the right thing we should be doing, and then oligarch falls out of a hotel window.
Well, right, because tons of oligarchs have also died.
Yeah,
So, I mean, this is just one more of them. It's not like this is a sudden change in how Putin has done business.
no,
It's always been that as you count. And the only difference is that this guy, they were supposedly good friends. And, at one point in time, and of course, Prigozhin started off as Putin's chef.
yeah,
That was
hot
how,
dog vendor turned into chef, yeah,
exactly. Turned into
yeah,
military commander. Um,
and ruthless,
yeah,
absolutely ruthless. That's how he
yeah,
gained his reputation. Um, you know, people who failed him would get beaten to death with a sledgehammer. In fact, that's at his memorial, somebody laid a sledgehammer there just to
yeah,
indicate his ruthlessness. The world's a better place for him no longer being on it,
for sure.
um, but that can be said for a lot of folks. So
Right. I mean, the only reason that we like him as much as we do is because we thought he was going to kill Putin, who was one level worse.
yeah, yeah.
Didn't
All
happen.
right. This week also, this is probably the most underreported story this week. It caused quite a panic for about 30 minutes, but it was, I don't think it really got much coverage outside of the region. My friend Travis Rednick, who's been a guest on the show, he used to do the hockey show with me. He said, "Hey, Okinawa is evacuated." I'm like, "What's going on?" He goes, "There was a North Korean missile fired at it." And for a half hour at 3:30 a.m., right around the same, and this news hit right around the same time the Perusian story hit. So that's why it got buried. But for a half hour to 45 minutes, Okinawa was put into high state of alert. The missile flew over. They didn't know if it was going to hit it. We don't know anything North Korea is not known for accuracy of missiles.
No, not at all.
So we were very close to having a global nuclear war, possibly. Because Okinawa is one of the largest U.S. military presence outside of the United States, especially in the Asia realm. There's a large base there. There's been a large base there for ages, and it was amazing to see. That story was just so hot and heavy for like 45 minutes, and then because the missile ended up going over the island, the lockdown and the evacuation to bomb shelters was canceled. But yeah, like turn on the news and he's like, check this out. And I'm like, what the hell? So I'd turn on NHK World, which is the Japanese broadcaster, and,
Yep.
and it was right around the time that they started calling off the evacuation. But yeah, it was interesting to see. North Korea fires a missile, and the United States did not take notice at all. I mean, I'm sure the government took notice, but media not at all.
I mean, it's an interesting thing because what does Kim Jong Un really want?
Attention.
Yeah, exactly. And so maybe the right response is to completely ignore it.
Yeah.
I mean, just up until the point that he does something that you would say, you know what? Now we got to respond, and we're going to nuke you, or whatever.
Yeah.
It's an interesting thing because North Korea's country is so fragile that you'd have to think they don't want to get into any sort of conflict, but they feel like if they don't, if they're not, the government feels like it can't stay in power unless, yeah, exactly. That was
Yeah.
what Trump called him, right?
Yep.
Um, the government feels like it can't stay in power unless it has this completely authoritarian control because the country's so fucked. So it's a weird place to be, and I don't know why. I don't know why there's not more pressure from China on North Korea
I think because it
because
keeps
yeah,
it's
they like it
a
because
balance
right
of
North
power.
Korea.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and so I listened to an interesting thing today where 2012 uh, Barack Obama uh, met with Xi Jinping, and the Chinese made all these promises to do all of these things, stabilize the region, military deals, stuff like that. And as it turns out, the Chinese completely lied. They
Yeah.
didn't do any of the things that they said they were going to do. And, if anything, they've escalated their malicious actions. And they are they are truly an enemy of the United States. Now, do we have to go to war with them? No.
No.
But we should recognize the fact that they are actively working against the forces of freedom. Because if you're an authoritarian, if you're a communist, if you're an authoritarian anywhere, you recognize that the greatest threat to your rule is people seeing the freedom in the United States. And so you have to humiliate the United States every chance you get. You have to combat it. I mean, the nicest thing the most successful thing the Russians have been able to do is to get us to fight amongst ourselves.
Yeah.
But that's clearly a deliberate plot. And the Chinese are involved in that to some extent as
Oh yeah.
well.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So North Korea, firing missiles. I think the idea of us ignoring it is probably a good one.
Yeah. But it could be a good one, or it could end up where he does something more provocative. I don't think he wants the smoke of a U.S. invasion. I don't think that the North Korean military is as much as he plays them up. I don't think they're
No, definitely not.
all that. There are some concerns as far as he's got some doomsday stuff as far as like massive dam on the North Korea side that he could let loose and drown Seoul with,
Well,
and other
I will
things
say
that
I will say the thing that almost certainly would happen, and this is pretty horrific, but you can reach Seoul with artillery fire from North
oh yeah,
Korea,
yeah,
and they would launch incendiary rounds and create a firestorm in Seoul, which is
yeah,
a very densely populated city of I think 8 million people.
yeah,
So you're talking of the ability, and there's really no defense against that.
no,
We don't have nobody's got anything that can. There is this thing MHEL, uh, something high powered laser that supposedly can intercept some artillery rounds, but you wouldn't be able to intercept enough.
no.
And
As densely packed as Seoul is, I mean, it's a
exactly
dense. It's not just a big city; it's a dense city. So
right, exactly, and you're
yeah, I
right,
mean, a
exactly.
firestorm in Seoul will,
Yeah, it would be
oof, yeah,
millions of deaths,
yeah.
and
Or I
so
mean, you just launch, you stick a nuclear weapon on that artillery, and you take out Seoul,
yep,
which is conceivable. So
yep,
yeah, I don't know. It's
yeah, it would
he
be
wants.
yeah. I don't know what he wants, and it's interesting because when we talk about that, these are the real dilemmas of talking about what we want to do with libertarianism
Mhm.
in the face of people whose real goal is to remove liberty as a concept from the planet.
Yeah,
The Chinese, the North Koreans, the Russians, they don't want a world in which people think that they have social mobility, that they have political freedom, that they get to choose their own rulers. None
yeah.
of them want that. And they
Um,
recognize that
to be fair, I don't think a lot of American leaders want that either. But
well, I
I mean,
think,
yeah, I mean they do. They'll give lip service, but we see what they do behind closed doors. are layering rules upon us. It's not to the extent of Vladimir Putin, but
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
would rather. I mean, when you look at a lot of Republicans, they would rather us make their choices, the choices that they want, and eliminate those choices that we want. And Democrats, when they get in power, do the same damn thing.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there is a level of difference.
Oh, there is
Although,
absolutely, yeah.
I mean, well, and that's, in many ways you could circle back around to Trump on this, though. In general, the real level of difference between the American democratic system is that if you lose an election, you accept the other side has won, and we have a peaceful transition of government, as opposed to the other sides, which don't believe in using elections as a manner to decide on whether or not there should be a transition of government. So,
And Biden's not gangster. I mean, he had the opportunity on Thursday night after Trump flew down to Georgia and then flew back. He could have shot him down if he wanted to.
well,
I mean,
it's funny you say that, because that was one of my favorite memes. Let me see if I can call it up real quick. Was the one that I think I have it on my phone. That said that this is what a coup looks like in Russia. And here, let's see. You
yeah,
read that
how
meme?
America prosecutes a coup versus how Russia does it.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, honestly, yeah. I mean that.
Yeah, because and that is the difference, right? Russia,
Yeah.
China, etc. You kill off the opposition.
All right.
America's not at that stage, with the exception of Donald Trump, who actually isn't killing off the opposition, but certainly trying to steal the elections.
And he's made it kind of clear that I think if he gets another kick at the can, that it's going to go a little bit different this time. So
Yeah.
uh, the other news story this week is almost the afterthought as well. The Republicans had their first primary debate. Did you watch any of that?
I watched none of it, and I haven't
Ah,
watched any of the highlights.
I watched it for. I mean, so there is. I mean, there is a 0.0% chance I'm going to vote for any of the Republicans, but I just wanted to
Sure, that makes sense.
see what they've got to offer. Um, it was a shit show. Like, I mean, so, and I put this up this week. Let me see if I can recall my rules that we need for debate in the United States. There are 6 rules that I put out there as the shit show began. Almost there we go. All right. So as we get into debate season, here are rules that we need for debates. First one, shot callers. If you interrupt, you go over time, zap for as long as they talk. Just make them twitch, make them smoke. I don't care. Number 2, each candidate will have the ability to shock one of their opponents once during the debate. You get one
Yeah.
shock. Everyone, including the shockee, knows who ordered the hit. Rule number 3, answers must be given in wrestling interview style. Just think of Macho Man Randy Savage or Hulk Hogan, that kind of style. I think that's the way it needs to happen. At a random point during the debate, two participants are chosen for a dance-off. The loser is eliminated from the debate stage. At one point, 2 debaters are given songs to sing karaoke style. Loser is eliminated from the debate. And at the conclusion of the debate, the participants are loaded into a rocket and fired into the sun.
I like that.
That's my 6 rules for the debate season. Yes, Hulkamania. It's been a rough week for wrestling too.
I tell you, I would like to have a thing in which, okay, you ask a question, and then all the participants are given a math problem, and you have to solve the math problem correctly to be able to answer.
No, I wouldn't be able to do that. I'm horrible at math.
But you wouldn't try to run for the Republican nomination for
This is true.
maybe.
Not for the
But
Republicans or the Democrats. I really,
well, and I'm not even saying make it complicated, right? Do some simple things like 12
what's it?
times 15.
Okay,
You can do that.
there you go. I mean, if he did, I mean, like if he started throwing letters in there, he started doing algebra, I'm fucked. There's just no way I'm going to get through that. Like
Yeah, you just
I
do
was
some
okay.
simple things,
Yeah, I
right?
was okay until they threw letters in math, and that just
what
screwed me.
what we do is we have a thing that your microphone is turned on with a code, and they give you a math problem, and you have to. The correct answer is the code that turns your microphone on.
Nice, there you go. I would never speak. So my impressions out of this, Borgum and Asa Hutchinson were two small state governors, Arkansas and North Dakota. It seems like every election cycle we have small state politicians that just think that they kind of catch that, I guess maybe Jimmy Carter magic and come from nowhere and become president. Neither of these guys really. I will say I was impressed by Borgum because he apparently ruptured his Achilles tendon that morning and was
Wow.
standing on stage and actually walked up on stage. They had him in a boot, which I thought was amazing. Like I thought, I've seen people with Achilles ruptures who can't even. They're on like those knee scooters and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
I mean, I ruptured my Achilles tendon, and I waited 3 days to get surgery. Essentially, you can't move, you can't
Yeah,
stand up, you can't put any weight on it at all. But modern pain medicine, you can live with it.
yeah,
But
yeah.
it's a
He was
big deal
high
for
as a
me.
kite during that debate. Then
Right, that would be awesome. Maybe that's another thing is that you should have a thing with like 8 shots in front of all the candidates, and when certain things are said, drink.
all right,
Uh, you
Dave
do it
Valente
like right. Do it like
hosts the LSD debate.
do it like a frat party. It's like, all right, so now, Mr. Hutchinson, you get to give a drink to anybody you want.
You get
Mike
to make a
Pence,
rule.
drink.
You get to make a rule.
Exactly right. It's a giant game of asshole.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Uh, of the candidates, I would say I had to. It's hard to say like. Um, I thought Tim Scott looked lost up there. Like I wasn't impressed by him at all. Nikki Haley was probably the least objectionable.
I like Nikki Haley the most out of there. I will say Vivek is like a weird guy. He's clearly smart. Um,
I liked him better as Zabu in the Guild,
yes.
but that's
And
because it reminds me of Felicia Day, and that just gives
but
me all kinds of
let's
fuzzies.
also at least I love Felicia Day as well. Dr. Horrible.
Yeah,
Um, let's talk briefly though about the fact that for the Republicans, this is a good showing in terms of number of people of color on stage. Right?
yeah.
It is. Let's give them credit where
No,
due.
I'm laughing at Drew's comment.
Oh, right. And two out gay people on stage as well. Mike Pence and
I was like, wait, I missed this one. I'm trying to figure out
all
who's gay on the
right.
stage.
Nobody. As far as I know, uh, all cis
Straight, yeah.
straight
I mean,
people.
you have Nikki Haley, who's Indian American, right?
Yeah,
So of course, Vivek as well.
yeah,
You have Tim Scott,
yeah. Who's black?
and then the rest were pretty lily white. I mean, Chris Christie was probably the. I mean, he was the. I hate to describe him as the angel on the shoulder of the Republican Party, talking about how awful Trump was, but I think that's really his only role in this whole debacle is to ensure that Trump doesn't get the nomination. I don't think there really is much of a chance in hell that he can do that,
No.
but he does rightly point out the stupidity, and Haley did as well. To her credit, she did point out the fact that all the spending and the debt and all that stuff that the Republicans were promoting, that a lot of the guys on stage had a massive hand in it, whether it was Pence, DeSantis when he was in Congress, Tim Scott, all those other folks that were in Congress definitely had a role in There was no fly in Mike Pence's hair this time, but yeah, they all had a role in the massive deficits that were run during the Trump administration
Well,
that
and so
added
you know
$8 trillion to the debt.
it's interesting to talk about Nikki Haley and where she uh, parts from the Republican Party
Hmm.
on being pro-choice,
Yep.
because I don't think it's fair to say that she is pro-choice,
No.
but she has talked about that. I've got the quote here. The only candidate on the stage that talked about how we should protect women and not demonize them was Nikki Haley.
Exactly.
She said we have to be pro-women.
But she still called for a 15-week abortion ban.
Yeah.
So I
Yep.
mean, and I think that's kind of the number that a lot of the politicians are settling on is the 15 weeks, which
Well, and in that conversation, Mike Pence said what I thought was the most chilling thing of all. He said to her, Nikki, you're my friend, but consensus is the opposite of leadership. That's just terrible,
yeah,
right? I mean, that's him saying, I'm here to
I
lead
know
you.
better than you.
I'm here to be your shepherd because you guys are sheep.
Oh,
And it's
and
just,
I mean, he talked
yeah,
several times about being a born again Christian, and when I did that, I read that I give you life and I protect your life and all whatever the hell Bible
yeah,
quote he was talking about, and if I wanted a minister, if I wanted somebody to be a minister, you know, probably elect Mike Pence. But we're talking about president of a multi-ethnic,
yeah,
multi-religious, some non-religious
yeah,
population.
exactly. How is Mike Pence going to be a legitimate representative for the people who don't believe in his branch of Christianity?
Yep.
Part of what his religion tells him is that he should not be alone in a room with a woman because he's a
Yeah.
married man. Now, I want to be fair and say his version of Christianity, that's not the only religion that does that. There are Orthodox Jews who practice that same tradition.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not shitting on Christianity here, but I'm saying that is a serious religious stance, and I would argue that most Americans are not that serious about their religion, and it's just you can't. I yeah, here's a great thing, right? I grew up Jewish. Uh, I self-identify as Texan before I self-identify as Jewish, but Jewish is probably second in my self-identification. Um, and I was not going to vote for Joe Lieberman, who was a Jewish candidate running for vice president. Uh, and I said I can't vote for him because he's too much of an extremist, because he's an Orthodox Jew, because he doesn't uh, he doesn't use electricity on Saturday. Okay, he won't ride in a car. Now he did say if there were a governmental emergency and it was Saturday, he would get in a car.
Yeah.
But and the religion goes into it. But I'm just like, dude, if that's what you think is so important, we're miles away from each other.
Yeah.
And I feel that about all the religious extremists who want to run for office. In fact, the one thing that I found a little more tolerant about Trump was that Trump is anti-religious. Uh, you know,
Although
he
there's
started lying
just
about it.
yeah, I
He
mean,
started
there's
lying
such
about
a
it to win.
weird
But
yeah, there's
when he
such a
was,
weird juxtaposition between the religious leaders that back Trump and Trump. Like that.
yeah, right, that part's
Uh,
crazy.
yeah,
I
not at
yeah,
all.
and I can't explain it because that's the thing is how many people, if you are a moral person, how can you possibly back Donald Trump,
I
who's
know
incredibly immoral?
it's
And I
not a
don't know,
cult.
anybody who can say that because certainly the grab them by the pussy comment, right? That's him. He said that. His wife excused it. She's like,
Yeah,
"Oh, it's just locker room talk." That is not locker room talk. That is rape culture. It's
yeah,
insane. And people are like, "Ah, whatever." Or, any number of just really dirty things that he did.
yeah.
Let's
It's
quiz it up.
yeah. Let's quiz it up. Yeah, of the rest of the people, I hated Vivek Ramaswamy. I hated Pence. Pence did have an honest moment when he talked about Trump. Um, yeah, Christie DeSantis was just fake. I mean, he
Yeah.
gives off complete Jeb vibes, Jeb 2012 vibes.
Please clap.
Please clap. You know, yeah.
Yeah.
Although
And
I said that about Biden in 2020, and I thought, he's just giving off Jeb vibes, like he was just going through the motions to run, and then all of a sudden he catches fire in South
I
Carolina.
yeah. Well, no, come on. Biden did not catch fire.
Well, he
Uh,
caught fire in the Democratic primary. He put everyone away after that.
no, that's not what happened at all. He convinced everybody else that if they didn't get together, get behind him, Bernie Sanders was going to win. And that's what happened.
Although I hear Bernie Sanders is going to New Hampshire this week.
I
Is
mean,
he going
he's
to campaign
old.
for Biden, or what is he going to do?
I don't know. But if Biden didn't catch fire, what happened was he was a better politician than Bernie Sanders. And here's the thing, Bernie Sanders is actually a terrible politician.
Oh
And
yeah,
if you're looking for somebody who has a thing of integrity about them, Bernie Sanders has a lot of integrity about him, right? He has a picture of himself being arrested protesting for civil rights in the 60s.
yeah.
Okay. That wasn't bullshit, a political staging or
He didn't.
anything like that.
He
Yeah,
didn't
he
mean
didn't
mug.
he didn't know. And he honestly does, right? He caucuses as an independent. He's not a Democrat. He disagrees with the party on a lot of things. Case in point, Bernie Sanders is miles away from the Democratic Party in his stance on immigration. Bernie Sanders' stance on immigration is very close to Donald Trump's.
Yep.
America first. Bernie Sanders wants to limit immigration because he wants to preserve American jobs for American workers,
Yep.
which is, that's what you would expect out of a socialist, which is what Bernie Sanders is. The Democrats, because Bernie Sanders, I believe, won every primary up until I'm gonna have to go back and look at it. And essentially they got together and they said, look, this can't happen because if Bernie Sanders wins, it empowers Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and the new Democratic Party that's brewing. And A, they probably would lose to Donald Trump. And B, we don't want to see the Democratic Party go that way. So they all got together and said, okay, Pete, you get Secretary of Transportation. And who else got jobs? Kamala, you get Vice President. And they essentially split up all the things. And they said, and then in 2024, Biden will find some way why he has to drop out. And
Although
Kamala,
I don't think he's gonna drop out.
I'm not convinced that he knows he's running.
Well, yeah, I don't think he knows he's running, but I don't think they're. I think that they're so married to this concept now that they can't do it.
Maybe it's pretty crazy. But on the other hand, he's said some pretty crazy shit recently. Like the whole
Oh yeah,
God Save the Queen thing and some of that other stuff. He's like, we've got this energy problem in the country right now. And I think I'm going to call that Oppenheimer guy to see if he can solve it. He didn't really say that. But
yeah. All right. Our 5 things news quiz for August 24th, 2023. So this went out on Thursday. So any news that's happened since then, not quite have made it into this quiz. So.
but I totally want to talk about this and all that controversy.
Yeah, that was that's a big thing. Definitely consent culture.
Yeah.
But pumpkin spice latte, Spanish team winning the World Cup, and the controversy, probably the controversy that scrolled afterwards, and then storms.
All right, let's go.
California. All right. Question.
Could be California. Could be. I mean, there've been a few other places that had some big snows.
Well, California had the tropical storm roll through it.
Right.
All right. Which country successfully landed a spacecraft? This is like a massive news story that just got completely buried this whole week.
Well, I think it's a massive news story in other places. Like, I'm pretty sure this is the number one story in the country India. That we're talking about.
Yeah.
James think it was Pennsylvania.
It's like a whole nother country.
Yep. Pennsylvania Dutch.
Italy, Russia, India, or Canada.
The Amish landed a spaceship on them.
Space buggy. with that little orange triangle on the back.
Horse
Yeah.
wearing a spacesuit.
But yeah, India landed the Chandrayaan 3.
Yeah.
I probably butchered that. Chandrayaan 3 spacecraft on the moon. The interesting thing about this is they were able to land it on the south pole of the moon. The Russians
Where
couldn't do
there's
that.
water.
Yeah, they believe there's water. They believe there's ice and water there, which could lead to permanent bases there. So,
Yeah.
that's an important thing. So India gets credit for being the first ones to be on the south pole of the moon. The
Yeah.
U.S. I think is what, a year and a half away from their second
Yeah. Well,
mission.
it's interesting though, because the other thing about I'm quoting Jimmy Fallon here, that the other thing that's really good about the Indian mission is that it's going to be a great support to the future missions because they immediately opened a convenience store.
God, that's awful.
It is.
But at least like if the British had colonized the moon, I mean, I'd rather have the Indians do it because they got better food. So
Well, it's interesting, right? Better food, a tradition of scholarship, the world's largest democracy.
yeah, not a surprise that India is the country that did it. I mean, you'd think that the United States would be able to do it. The Russians tried it.
Failed.
Their spacecraft crashed, but they were able to land it. So good on India. That's
Yeah, no,
awesome.
I agree. It's a major accomplishment, and it's not. I agree with you too that it's not a shock that they
And
did
I
it.
would, I would be much more comfortable. I'm not a big fan of Narendra Modi as a politician, and a lot of the
Yeah,
stuff that's going on in India. I'm not a huge fan of, but as a future space partner, I'd much rather be partnering with India than Russia.
sure.
But yeah.
No, I agree.
Question number 2. 8 Republican presidential candidates faced off Wednesday in the first primary debate of the 2024 campaign. Where did the debate take place?
On the moon, South Pole.
South Pole of the Moon. Milwaukee, San Diego, Houston, or St. Paul?
I really have no idea about this, but I think
I
the
do.
audience is going to know
I do.
because you watched it.
Well, yeah, that too, but it's also the location of the 2024 Republican convention.
Well, they'd be crazy to do it in San Diego,
No.
so it's clearly not there. And St. Paul, same thing. Neither of those are. So it's got to be either Milwaukee or Houston, and it can't be Milwaukee because Schlemazel, Haas and Pepper Incorporated. So I'm going to guess Houston.
You're wrong.
It's Milwaukee.
Milwaukee is the site of the 2024 presidential convention, Republican presidential convention. So they decided to have their first primary
That's
there.
interesting because
Primary debate
I
there.
guess the reason why is that Republicans are really focused on money, and Milwaukee's all about the bucks.
Well,
Dum.
damn, man. If you've been violated by a Dan joke, you may be entitled to compensation.
Show us on the doll where the joke hurt you.
Yeah, so Milwaukee, it's not surprising that they chose Milwaukee. Milwaukee went for Trump first time, or Wisconsin went for Trump first time. I think it went for Biden the second time. So it is a purple state, so it's not a surprise that they chose Milwaukee as the site of the convention. And
Milwaukee went for Trump by 30,000 votes. Gary Johnson had more.
Oh yeah,
way more than that. And Hillary Clinton never stepped foot in the state of Wisconsin.
I mean, Milwaukee or Wisconsin used to be such a union belt,
But something huge actually just happened in Milwaukee, in Wisconsin. The Supreme Court flipped there. Milwaukee's from Republican to Democrat, and they are changing up a lot of shit.
Yeah.
Probably going to revoke the right to work, which I think is a damn shame. But
yeah,
I mean, I would hope that there's a little bit of stare decisis involved in that. But
all right, question number 3: which political figure visited Maui this week to witness up close the devastation left by the wildfires?
Smokey the Bear.
Former President Barack Obama, former President Donald Trump. No, he was busy. President Joe Biden or Vice President Kamala Harris.
Only you can prevent forest fires.
Yes, but we can't prevent these politicians from traveling.
And we can't prevent electrical wires unsheathed from starting forest fires, apparently, at least not in Hawaii.
Kim says
I
Harris. I'm going to
think
say
it was Joe Biden.
El Presidente. Remember, roll your R's.
The Biden Meister.
Does he know that he was in Hawaii? I don't know. He was
Janice
probably
got
like,
it. Right.
I would say he probably thought he was in Iraq at this point. Just looking at
Well,
this.
I mean, the first question that he came out, they saw him, the devastation, and he turned and he thought he was off camera. And he's like, "Did Hunter do that?"
All right. Question number 4. Which airline began weighing some passengers before flights?
Oh, I hadn't heard anything about this.
Qatar, Korean Airways, American Airlines, or British Airways? I believe it's Qatar.
I would guess Korea, KAL, but I don't know. I have no idea. See if the
James says American.
audience knows this.
Yeah,
American. I mean, American's the biggest, but
I don't think they would not survive the heat.
Yeah, it's because it's friggin' American, right? Exactly,
yeah.
And that's why I'm thinking that like KAL.
As much hell as Southwest got for making larger passengers buy 2 seats.
Yep.
Yeah. So we
think it's not American. Seems unlikely that it's British. Qatar or Korea, I'll go either way.
Well, that's a good quote there.
Yeah.
All right. Which one do we want to go?
I like Korea, but I'm looking at the picture. I don't know. I don't see anything on there that's indicated in the picture.
It is Korean. All right. Passengers flying with Korea Air in the next few weeks will be maybe asked to take one additional step before boarding, stepping onto a scale. The purpose of the airline's policy is to obtain data about the flight's fuel needs and weight distribution.
So it's interesting. Janice points out that we neglected to talk about Trump's
God
weigh-in. So they said he was 6'3".
No, this is self-reported. It wasn't. He wasn't weighed.
Right. 6'3" and 215 pounds, which is pretty crazy.
No, which was the size of Muhammad Ali in his prime.
Yeah.
Elite athletes are like 215 pounds.
I mean, it depends on the sport, but yes, it's very.
Hockey players are in that 210 to 220 range, depending on their height. I mean, if they're higher, or they're taller, they're obviously gonna weigh more. But I was looking at the Buffalo Sabres roster, and like Owen Power's 6'6", 215, 3 inches taller, and a rail skinny. So there is no way Trump weighs 215.
I agree.
All right, question number 5. Which team won the Women's World Cup?
All right, we got to let the audience answer this.
Yeah.
Come on, audience. Don't let us down. Yeah, and then we do have a lot to say about it.
England, France, Germany, and Spain are the choices.
All former colonial powers, although Germany not really so much.
Yeah, one of these teams didn't even make it to the knockout rounds.
James is wrong, saying England.
Close, but no.
Yep. And this team beat England to get to the finals. Janice has it right. Nice job, Janice.
The Spanish
made
history by beating England 1-0 to win the Women's World Cup for the first time. First time winner. Congratulations to them. And then the controversy began. Well, a sad story. The woman who scored the game-winning goal, the only goal of the final, found out right after the game that her father had passed away.
Oh,
which is awful. Like to be at that mountain, to climb the mountain, to reach the highest heights, have that jubilation, and then immediately get brought down. Just awful.
Brutal.
But Spain won it. And then when they started handing out the medals, so you're watching an award ceremony where they hand out the medals, you go down this line of, FIFA officials and officials from your football association board of governors, and you get your medal, you get like a little flower thing, and then you have the celebration. During this line, I can't remember Hermosa Jack.
The
Can't remember her
woman
name.
who it's Luis Rubiales
Rubiales
and
is
is
the
the
man
coach,
from
and
the
yeah,
new
Jenny Hermoso
Jenny
is the player.
Hermoso. Yeah, she was walking through the line, got her medal, and went to shake the hands of the people standing there. And Luis Rubiales, who is the head of the football association, head of Spanish football, put his hands on her face, pulled her close, and gave her a kiss right on the lips.
Yeah, I mean, the video is. Do you want to show the video? I can send you the link.
Yeah, you can send me a link.
All right, let me send it right here. Oh wait, hang on. Fucking Google. Uh, use this one.
All right, hold on just a second. Let me stop that so I can share it.
And then I'll translate the Spanish afterwards.
Yes, please, because I took Spanish in high school, took 2 years of it, and I knew less going out of it than I did going in. So, all right, here we go. So that was it.
Yeah. No, we didn't see it. You didn't share it.
Oh, damn it! Hold on a second.
And it's really short.
Yeah, it's very short. See, I wasn't looking at the screen. There we go. All right.
All right, so here we go. Everybody can see it. There we are. That's Luis. As soon as she grabs the head, kisses her on the lips.
Yeah, which
And
does not give you any ability to.
right. And to be clear, right, it's not like she pulls away. She doesn't slap him, anything like that. But afterwards, she said that it was in no way consensual.
Yeah, which he does. He says that it was consensual,
Right.
and refuses to step down. FIFA actually stepped in, which kind of shocked me. But he's being suspended for like 3 months, I believe, is his suspension. Which all that does is allow this story to kind of blow over for a while. I don't think that
Well, I think it's gonna. Yeah, I think
yeah,
it's gonna.
it's still going to continue. I think that was really just a ploy to let it blow over. But the problem with that story is that, um, you know, first off, even if she was, okay with that, the way he did it, the grabbing the head just gives you no ability to pull back.
Well, what's crazy about it is this is exactly the same thing that Andrew Cuomo did,
Yep.
right? And I mean, I will say that Facebook has surprised me in that places where I posted it, in general, most people are like, yeah, that's wrong.
Yep.
One guy wanted to argue about it. When I asked him, he's like, it's just a kiss. It's not a big deal. I'm like, dude, the next time we meet, I am going to kiss you on the lips, and we'll see how you object to it.
Just a kiss, man.
Exactly. But it's the whole concept. And
The
in many
entitlement.
ways, maybe the best thing that will come out of this World Cup is this understanding that consent has to be, there's an acronym that Planned Parenthood uses, FRIES: freely given, reversible. I don't remember what the I stands
Informed.
for.
I think it's
Informed, right. E is enthusiastic, and S is, I think, specific.
yeah.
So that's not an enthusiastic response. If you have to hold somebody's head in your hand and kiss them, that's not an enthusiastic response. I mean,
I mean,
you should actually get consent before you grab their head.
or even hug them, like and I get in Spanish culture it is much more in European culture. Like if he had done
Yep.
the cheek to cheek kiss that they do in Europe, I
Yeah.
think there would have been much less firestorm over that. But the fact that he grabbed her head and pulled her in for a kiss on the lips, which
Yeah,
it's just over the top, and hopefully he does resign eventually. I think it's going to take a while, but I
I
think
think it
there's
will too.
negotiations going. But to their credit, the women's national team, every member of the women's national team has indicated that, and people with it that are not even on the national team that are in the reserves have indicated they're not going to play until he steps down, and
Yeah,
the entire coaching staff has stepped down in protest. So
yeah, yeah,
good on
and
them.
yeah, exactly. And honestly, this guy could have jumped out ahead of it, right? He could have said, "I didn't realize I'm wrong. I'm
It
going to
was in
go
the
to some
passion of the
training."
moment, and I made a mistake, and he
Exactly,
didn't. Yeah,
exactly. And that would be, he might take some heat for it, but instead he's doubling down and he's saying, "No, it was consensual. It was consensual. It was
and
consensual."
yeah, when she says it's not consensual, then you have no leg to stand on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. Question number what, 6? Yeah. Question number 6. Crews are cleaning up debris in the aftermath of Hurricane Hillary. Which state was badly damaged by the storm? And the choices are Montana, California, New York, or Louisiana.
Yeah, I think we're going to know this.
Yes. They know how to party.
Nice little LL Cool J quote.
Yeah.
California. No, not LL Cool J. Sorry.
No. That was
LL's going back to Cali. It's Dr. Dre
Dr.
and
Dre. Yeah, it's Snoop.
yeah,
Yeah.
knows how to party. City of Compton.
Word. So yeah, Hillary's was pretty bad. I had a friend that have a friend that lives in San Diego who talked to me. He was luckily living on a hill, but the amount of slides and water damage that were done. Storms are pretty damaging when they go out west. I remember my first year in New Mexico. Um, there are warnings if you have anything like an arroyo in your city, which is like these water channels.
Yeah.
They can fill up, just on a heartbeat because all this water is coming down from the mountains, um, and go from basically a bone dry cement valley to being a raging river for. And the first week I was in school in Albuquerque, some kid died. One of my classmates died in an arroyo drowning on a
Right.
freak storm that didn't hit the city. It hit the mountains and just ran down. So
Yeah, I think that they're just not prepared for heavy rain like that,
yeah,
and as a
and
result,
California's getting a lot of rain, which is great because it's filling up the reservoirs. So the reservoirs were
yeah, I didn't even look to see what Lake Mead is at right now, but Lake Mead got a lot of rain from that.
yeah they're not finding bodies there anymore. So that's good.
Yeah.
All right, question number 7. FDA approved a new vaccine for which virus? COVID-19, chickenpox, RSV, or measles?
I mean,
Probably COVID.
gosh, uh, James, I am in the DC area, but I do like Dr. Dre. I
Yes.
mean, I like the whole.
COVID 2023. I mean, not lying.
Yeah, I
Just
like the
boring.
whole thing. Everything that came out of NWA, and then everybody went off and had their own careers. Uh, Chronic, I think, is one of the greatest albums of all time. I love Wu Tang. They're nothing to fuck with.
Ain't nothing to
Uh,
fuck with.
Cash rules everything around me. Get
Word.
the money, dollar bill, yo.
All right, Janice says COVID-19. I think it's COVID-19. You think it's
I agree, it's
COVID-19?
COVID.
Oh, no, it's RSV.
Oh wow,
FDA
that's a
approved first
bullshit
vaccine that
question.
protects newborns from respiratory syncytial, whatever that virus is. RSV.
I have no idea because I
Words.
guess that the COVID vaccine has been in the works for a while, but we're not going to be able to get it. But I am going to get it
Yeah, I mean, of course,
because this new one that's out. I mean, it is out there.
yeah, it's
Like
out
I mean,
there. I mean, people are catching. In fact,
yeah,
our
I'm not calling
co-host
for
got it.
masking or anything,
No.
or shutdowns or lockdowns or anything. But people need to be smart about it.
Yep. Get vaccinated if you can. So All right, which country is banning all seafood from Japan? China, Australia, United States, or Thailand?
And they're banning it because the
Fukushima.
Japanese are releasing the spent water from Fukushima. Uh,
I,
yeah, I agree. It could be China.
China.
China. I agree with James. It's definitely not the United States. It's not Australia and
I mean,
Thailand.
Australia makes a little more sense, but yeah, I think China because they're so close and they're
Well, and
rivals
also
in fishing.
China has a huge economic gain
Yeah,
from doing that.
absolutely. Yeah, correct. China banned all seafood from Japan in response to Tokyo's decision to begin releasing treated radioactive water from the Fukushima nuclear plant. All right, question number 9. Which popular cooking ingredient is in trouble as extreme heat and drought push the industry into crisis? Flour, olive oil, salt, or pepper?
Well, it's not going to be salt.
No.
Um, it seems unlikely that it's flour because we can cook wheat like nobody's business. Oh, you know what? I do know that there's a huge sriracha shortage going on right now,
There is.
and so I
James
wonder.
saying oil.
Well, I was wondering if that means pepper because that's similar plant.
Uh,
I don't know. It could be olive oil. James says oil.
Nothing from the picture kind of gives me any indication. So,
It looks a little bit like the red sriracha, but I'll go. Let's come on, audience. Come up with another thing. Janice guesses pepper. All right. Me and Janice say pepper. You
all
and
right.
James say oil.
I mean, I don't know. Well, so hold on a second. I mean, it could be olive oil because they've had really, really bad heat in the Mediterranean.
Okay.
All right, olive oil. I'll be wrong if I'm wrong. Oh, yes.
Nice job.
Way to go. Mr. Savita. Good on you for getting that one.
Yeah.
All right. Olive oil industries are warning of skyrocketing prices and potential shortages due to scorching temperatures
You
threatening
know
to bad olive
the
oil
way you said
yields.
James's name and our rap conversation earlier with James makes me wonder. James, do you ever? If your name is James M. Uh, Savina, do you ever sing the song Bob Doubleina, but put your name in it? Mr. Doubleina, Mr. Bob Doubleina.
Hmm.
No? All right. We'll see. If you haven't heard it, great rap song. Look it up.
All right. Question number 10. Which signature drink did Starbucks reintroduce to its menu this week? It has begun.
Dude, chestnut praline latte sounds so fucking good. That
That
would
does
be
sound good.
amazing.
I'm not a coffee drinker, though. So, I mean, but the
Yeah. What
chestnut
about
pralines?
what about roasted chestnuts? Do you like roasted chestnuts?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, roasted chestnuts are awesome. Pralines are awesome.
Uh, but yeah,
Peppermint's
it's the
disgusting in
pumpkin
coffee.
spice latte.
It is pumpkin spice.
Fun fact: it's its 20th year.
It's
So
crazy.
happy anniversary to the pumpkin spice latte. Places are taking it way too seriously.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's marking the 20th anniversary. So congrats to the pumpkin spice latte for worming its way into American culture. And like my local grocery store has all kinds of pumpkin spice crap that just doesn't
I
sound good.
saw
There's
a
like a pumpkin
recipe.
spice mustard or something like that.
I saw a recipe for a whole roasted chicken where you put the chicken inside a pumpkin and cook the whole thing together. I will say I like pumpkin as a food. Pumpkin pie is
Well,
amazing.
pumpkin spice is not pumpkin at all.
Yeah. I also like dried pumpkin seeds, salted.
Yes,
Those are
hmm
delicious.
they are delicious. I like pumpkin seeds. I'm not a big fan of like pumpkin pie. Like that's not my favorite go-to pie. Even during the holidays, like I'm more give me a cherry pie, give me a
For Thanksgiving, though,
yeah. Even for Thanksgiving,
interesting.
I'm not a Thanksgiving.
I
Not a
like
yams or anything like
I
that.
like
That's
pecan pie and pumpkin pie for
yeah.
dessert. Sweet potato pies is certainly good too. But I'll tell you the other thing I like about pumpkin is that it's easy to grow yourself. You know, we're growing a lot of our own food now, and so
Yeah.
having the pumpkins come in late. 4 or 5 of them. You can scrape all the meat out and preserve it, eat it later.
Yep.
So
Some
it's a
people are.
good, yeah, it's a good crop for survival.
Yeah. I, you know, I, I mean, I'll eat it if somebody puts a. I'm a fat guy, so you put a plate of pie in front of me, I'm gonna eat it. But just for my preferences, um, kind of like my hierarchy of pies, like a peach pie, cherry pie,
Do you
lemon meringue.
differentiate between pie and cobbler?
Not really. No, it's all
Yeah,
the same. All the
I
same to
don't
me.
either. But pumpkin doesn't come in a cobbler. Pecan pie is amazing, I have to say. A well
Pecan
done
is
pecan
is
pie
good.
is amazing. Did you know that the pecan is the only nut that has a high enough oil content that you can light it with a match and it will burn on its own? It's,
Wow, did
it's
not know that.
really cool.
That is cool. All right, I think that's it for the week. I did want to make a couple announcements. So next week we're going to have Brianna Coyle on to talk
Oh,
about,
I love Brianna.
yeah, talk about her work with the Democratic Party and work with an organization called the Center for New Liberalism. Very excited about talking about that with her. Um, again, we've been highlighting since the Reno takeover places to put your activism. If you don't feel comfortable with being in the Libertarian Party now, there are places to put your activism. So we've done, Pirate Party and Keystone Party and some other, exercises to participate. Dan's Let Live and all this other stuff. We're kind of going into the left side now, and I think it'll be an interesting hour for us hour and a half to talk about that. And then we're also going to debut AJ's new venture on the show next week and talk about some of the merch stuff that she's doing and give you links. And there's a
Close the
tie-in to
video.
our show. Oh yeah, let me close that.
Close the shared window so that we can see your big face,
Yes,
Dave.
my big white ass face. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're gonna have merch stuff and stuff tied into the political deep dive. So very excited
Woohoo.
to announce that next week. So join us next week on the political deep dive. Have a good night, everybody, and we'll see you next week.
Hook 'em horns, go Texas.
Hooty hoo, go Owls.